Good evening, everyone. It is November 25th, 2013. I am Daniel Miles, and I will also be your host once again, for today's installment of Digital Zen. Today's topic is people that influence me, but before I get to that, I'd like to clear up some things that I got as feedback from the first installment, which was knowing Daniel Miles. Now, to go on to the first contention, so to say, knowing Daniel Miles was actually a bit of an ambiguous title. One of the biggest things that I got was that knowing someone's likes and dislikes doesn't necessarily constitute knowing them. It constitutes knowing about them. To that, I'd say yes and no. When you know what someone likes, what someone dislikes, what interests them, what gets them going, you kind of get an insight into their character. For example, if I was to say that, or if you came to me and say, Daniel, I really, really, really like horse racing, and I'm like, awesome, you like sports, and then you were to say, Daniel, I really like gambling, I'd say, oh, he's just a gambler. That was a bad example, but like I said, if you get to know generally about someone, you in turn almost subconsciously get to know them, or at least the basics about them. And the reason that I have this and that last and this episode, they're very, very general topics, but I place them here at the beginning because at the beginning of this sort of journey of catharsis and this path of self-knowing, it's important to know the basics before I can talk about more profound, more in-depth things. And so that's why I do them. Number two, a friend of mine said that I should try and make the show more funny, more humorous. I inject humor when I feel it's necessary, but the point of this vodcast or show or channel or whatever you want to call it is that I, at my very, very basic level, am just releasing my soul. This is catharsis, if you want to say that. And so some of this subject matter isn't exactly funny, nor does it really. It's not really appropriate to be funny. And so yes, I inject humor when humor is necessary and appropriate, but I'd say this is more of a not serious, but more heavy-hearted show, I guess. To oppose lighthearted, it was a try. Anyway, number three, and this is actually, I was looking forward to this tonight. Another one of my classmates in English, he says that he got really excited because he saw me playing with the lighter in my hand, so he thought I was just going to set something on fire, and that's why he watched the show. And he was disappointed when I didn't. So, Peyton, yeah, this is for you. Here. There we go. See? Shit's on fire. How about that? Look at that flame, man. Don't worry, I got an ashtray right here next to my computer. But, this thing's really burning. Kindly burning all over my computer. And I should have thought about it before I put another note card in there. But see, we're all good. And so that's that. Now that I have ashes all over my computer screen and close. And with that fiery ending, I'd like to transition into today's actual topic, which is people that influence me. And these are going to be people and things, It's a pretty general topic, but I think it's important to the show vodcast channel. We'll call it vodcast for my own sake. And the first of those, and I'm not necessarily doing this in level of importance, I'm doing it in level of relevance to this vodcast, Digital Zen. So number one in that case is going to be a nice man called Sean Plott, otherwise known as Day 9. Day 9 has a YouTube channel where he's a StarCraft 2 commentator, but he also does things for other games like Amnesia: The Dark Descent and Magic: The Gathering. And the reason I was like, why are you talking about some neck-bearded video game player? Well, It's because his YouTube channel is called Day9TV. It's the reason for this show. It's why I did this show. Well, it's what sparked me to do this podcast. I would highly recommend you go check out Day9TV. He's a funny guy. Aside from his Day9 dailies, which he's famous for, he occasionally does these things called musings, where I got musings of the Inquisitive. And the way that he can express his ideas, and so eloquently, so painlessly, so humorously, it's inspiring. It's enviable, and it's what I want to be, and it's what I want to be able to do. So Day 9, there's to you. Number 2 is my parents. As I explained in the last episode, family to me is something that I feel has a great lot of potential, but so far, since my family has all been in different stages of their life, and in some cases, especially now, different locations, it's kind of been a disappointment. But why family, and especially my parents, are so influential is that they're the first social group that I've interacted with as my time on planet Earth. When you come into the world, I think it's every little kid looks up to his dad. I'm not really kidding. Yeah. But every little kid looks up to his dad. And some life lessons that I've learned from my dad are things that I couldn't have learned from other people, and that I wouldn't want to have learned from different people. As many painful aspirations and wishes that I would have for my family, there's an equal, if not greater, amount of happy memories with them. I'm going to pull out the most stereotypical example in the world, and I'm going to say playing catch with my dad in the backyard. I used to, oh my goodness, thank you. I used to hound him all the time to go out in the back and play catch with me because, I wanted to impress him. I liked being around him, and I just liked talking to him. He'd give me these little bits and pieces of wisdom, and I guess I just didn't want to move on from that. But both of my parents, they've brought me up to be a nice, upstanding young man, and I really can't thank them enough for that, because they've made me who I am today. Whether that be a good or a bad thing is up to you. So number 3, I'm going to keep in the adult category here, is my teachers. I've always had a great relationship with at least one of my teachers every year, usually more. And the wisdom, not only just scholarly wisdom, like, what's 2 plus 2 equals 4? I think it's 5. What's 2 plus 2 equals 4? Some of the wisdom that they've passed on to me are things that I've taken into my life already and can use in the future. But besides from just telling me things, it's being there. The way I see it is that you see your teachers once a day, 7 times or 5 times a week for like an obscene amount of weeks during the year, so you might as well be friends with them. And having someone to just kind of talk to after school, having someone just kind of sit down and usually play a game of chess with, or just kind of sit and talk with, and just kind of talk about things. Not really anything deep particularly all the time. Just like, sometimes it can be a particular book that I'm reading at the time, or it can be what their family's like, what they used to do before they taught, things like that. And so taking lessons and taking wisdom, taking friendship from my teachers has been something it's something that I always strive for, and it's something that I just enjoy doing. I'm actually going to transition into my friends, because I briefly touched on friends in my in episode number 1 of the podcast. And friends there, I kind of limited to just my, like, my age group friends, like the people I go to cookout or the people I go to the diner with. But teachers are friends as well. They're just older friends, much older friends. And the wisdom that my 17-year-old friends and the wisdom that my teacher friends give me, maybe the 17-year-olds aren't quite as insightful, but being friends with my teachers, and it's like I've had someone especially there for me, or with me, each year of high school. I'm not going to give out names, obviously, because I don't want all of my 8 subscribers to go, hunt them down and give them a hug or something. I don't know what stalkers on the internet do. But I found that it's mostly religious teachers. Religion is obviously an insanely deep subject and something that is an extremely big part of my life. But even though I haven't been a particularly religious or devout person or a believer, I guess, is that I've gone to a Catholic school my entire life since I was a wee little Daniel in preschool. And how I've come to understand love, and how I've come to understand community and wisdom. It's very Catholic, but it's also very Catholic school teacher. And I see a lot of times that my religion teachers are a little bit more insightful than maybe, I don't want to say that they're more, they're better in any particular way than any of the other department teachers, but I've always connected the best with my English teachers and with my theology teachers. And I think it tells, it's very evident to me how that shapes me, myself as a person. I'm pretty sure I just used like 3 stereotypical phrases in one sequence. That was really, I'm going to start over. I connect with my English and theology teachers the best because I see them as possible extensions of me in the future. I've had teachers of all shapes and kinds, especially in high school. But people who I see teaching theology, and especially English, those are people that I can see myself being in the future. People who genuinely want for their students to understand the subject matter, and not just, but the subject matter usually is just the beginning. Within these teachers that I relate with, and that's why, and subsequently become my friend, is because I see in them a genuine desire to teach and a genuine desire to see their students understand. And maybe, this is actually just me thinking as I'm, throwing all this out, but the desire to understand is usually why I attract myself to people. As it goes with friends, I usually set myself up as the leader, and when people, and generally, this isn't always, this is definitely not always. When I lead, people follow. And I almost do it because I want them. I feel that I can best show them the way to understand, or at least I can understand myself, my life, my ideas, and that's why I want them to follow me. And so when I think to teaching, and when I think how that relates to leading and following, that is why I attract myself with teachers so much, and that's why they're such a big influence on my life. A lot of these teachers are teaching very controversial subjects for a teenager at 17 years old and 18 years old. Things like philosophy, things like morality and church history. And when you get kind of that interest, that spark, as opposed to just sitting learning about trigonomic functions and a squared equals b squared equals c squared, when you have the interest and when it matched with that desire in the teacher for the students to learn, it's very attractive, not in the physical sense, but in the intellectual sense, I guess. And kind of going off into the intellectual sense, and I'm going to transition into number 5, is authors. I explained in the last installment of the vodcast how much books have to do with how I've become how I've grown as a person, and really who I plan on becoming as a person. But there are people like Steinbeck with East of Eden, and Vonnegut with Slaughterhouse-Five, and Mark Twain with a bunch of different things, Connecticut Yankee and King Arthur's Court, Huckleberry Finn, Tom Sawyer, things like that. It seems to me that these authors have such a great snapshot of life. They have such a great understanding, a great knowing of what they're talking about and where they want people to go and where they think it's best for people to go, that I'm attracted to these people because of their understanding, because of their wisdom. There's a quote by Mark Twain that I always go back to. And this quote by Mark Twain was like, "Life is short. Break the rules. Live uncontrollably. Laugh uncontrollably. Dance laughably. Break the rules. Explore. Dream. Discover." It's like seeing that in words and seeing that being written by another person who died, however long ago, and being filled with such wonder, with such desire to want more. You like, hey, that's pretty cool. I'm gonna keep looking into that. And you're seeing more of these ideas on this page, and you're loving it all the more that you can't help but love the person. And that's exactly what I feel for people like Steinbeck, Vonnegut, Twain. I was going to say Jane Austen, but I hated Pride and Prejudice, so it's not worth. Douglas Adams, he did Hitchhiker's Guide to the Galaxy. All these people who share such wisdom, such wit, such love of what they do. I can't help but be influenced by it. And so amazingly, what's that now? Something like 28 minutes short. I'm ending this installment of Digital Zen. But before I do that, I'd like to recap what I said at the beginning of the show, because I think it's important going forward. Why I do this podcast at the very, very basic level is because I want to express my ideas. And I want people to listen to them. It is essentially catharsis. It's me pouring out my soul. And for me to be able to adequately do that, I have to give you the general framework of Daniel. I have to let you know what's going on in here, so eventually I can tell you what's going on in here. So these 2 first episodes, very basic stuff, influences and likes, dislikes, interests, things like that. They're important because you need to know of Daniel Miles before you can know Daniel Miles. Any linguisticians out there? I think I just, gave you a little smile there, so. Anywho, today is December 25th, 2013. I am Daniel Miles, and I wish you the happiest and jolliest of nights.